Hello everyone, so I'm Gareth. Hopefully you're here to see continuous delivery in a tech debt laden world. If you're not, now is the time to escape. And apologies, when I typed that out, that was a really snappy title. Now I've said it, it doesn't feel quite as, it's got that zing, but here we go. So hopefully you're ready, let's start. I have to show you this slide. I think if I paraphrase it, it means if you do what I say and it goes wrong, you can't blame me. So there's nothing like this slide to build trust, is there, right at the beginning? But there we go. So we've got quite a big agenda to get through. I'm going to tell you about me. I'm going to tell you about TalkTalk, because you may not know who TalkTalk are. And then I'm going to tell you about the problems that we face inside of TalkTalk and how we're attacking those problems, and specifically how we've attacked them over the last 6 to 12 months. And then we're talking about thinking big and acting small, because that's really important, because having the ideas is great, but how do we get them into action? And then finally, the reaping the rewards bit, or living the dream. It's important that we be able to recognize success and how can we show that our stakeholders that we are being successful as well. So that's what we'll go through. And if there's something, if I was to put myself in your position that I wanted you to take away from this presentation, is it's really about how do you get these things off the ground? Because that's what I've struggled with. Actually, the technical implementation of this tooling from CA isn't the hard part. The hard part is getting other people to believe in the solution, to get them on the journey to actually even get started. And I'm sure there's people out there, yourselves, who maybe suffer from the same problem. So hopefully that will come through in the presentation as we go. So if you're ready, we'll start proper. So me, that's me, okay? The faces match. I'm Gareth Watson. I work in TalkTalk. I'm the Tooling and Environments Manager. And that basically means I manage all of the tooling that the developers and testers use from the IDE level all the way up to the stuff we use for continuous integration and things like that. So build servers, test servers, all that kind of stuff. The less interesting side of my job is the operational management of the test environments, because they cause me a lot of pain and I'm trying to solve those issues. I've worked at TalkTalk for 10 years now. 10 years, so a long time. And over that time, we've been on quite a big journey in terms of automation and where, well, when I compare where we started to where we are now, it's like night and day. I started in 2007 as a software developer, so just churning out code for features and things like that. It was great. But what I learned during that time, as I was just a plain software developer, was that I am absolutely lazy to my core. I never want to do the same thing twice, ever. So if I was doing something and I thought, I've got to do this again, I'd be writing a script or writing something that did it for me. And that's where my passion for automation came from. And I was really lucky that there was a team inside of TalkTalk that were all about automation called Delivery Technologies. And I now run that team. And we've been doing automation since around about 2009. This last 6 months, I've been focused on automated testing and automated deployment. We have some solutions in TalkTalk already, but this is about standing up kind of an enterprise class one. And I'll give you I'll give you one guess what solutions we picked to solve those problems. I'll give you a clue. It's got something to do with this place. So, just really quickly, hands up who's heard of TalkTalk? Oh, a few people, excellent. Hopefully all good things, possibly. For those who don't know who TalkTalk are, we are a telecoms company in the UK. And we are a quad play provider is what we're known for. So we do 4 things properly. We put fixed lines into people's houses so you can make telephone calls. Simple stuff, easy to understand, been round out for over a century. We do internet services over that line as well. So when I get on the internet, you come to us. We do TV services too, so this is quite new. We have set-top boxes that we can put into people's homes that give them free-to-air channels, but also kind of like a TV store where you can rent kind of videos on demand and stuff like that. We're not a content provider, we're not Netflix, we're not that exciting, but we do have a TV service. And then finally we have a cell phone service. In the UK they're called mobile phones. A cell phone service that you can buy cell phones from TalkTalk with contracts, and we offer all these services, for example, just to get people to be sticky. If you buy 1 service from us, you may go away. You buy 2, you're more likely to stay. You buy 4, we've got you for life. But TalkTalk has a number of challenges that it faces all the time. We are not the biggest telecoms provider in the UK, not by a long way. In our market, there are some massive players with bigger budgets, larger teams, and a larger customer base. And the way that we compete with those big players is by having value propositions. And when I say value propositions, what I mean is cheaper. We sell our products and services for less money than our competitors. That's how we stay in business. But that in itself brings us a really difficult problem in that we don't have as much money to spend. So when we choose to spend it, we need to make sure we spend it absolutely wisely on the most appropriate thing that we can. Because if we spend it in the wrong place, we're in trouble. So that's TalkTalk, that's what we do. Let's move on. So I've told you two things that you probably didn't know before. I've told you about me. None of you have met me before, well, apart from a couple of you. And I've told you about TalkTalk. But this is not my slide. I've stolen this. How many of you have seen this before? Quite a few of you. I know you have, Mike. You showed me. So this is CA's slide. I've stolen this, and I love it. That's why I've stolen it. I suggest maybe you do the same. You could ask for permission. I mean, I didn't. But feel free to use it. And the reason I'm showing this to you now is because it spoke to me. It really resonated. So if you haven't seen it before, you're in for a treat. I don't know about you, but I get a lot of salespeople through my doors trying to sell me various solutions, and you wade through endless marketing material and smoke and mirrors, snake oil, and every so often you come across a nugget of gold, and that's what this is, because it tells a story. It tells a story about thinking big, getting right up to that optimized software factory. But not only does it give you that dream where you want to be, it also tells you how to get there. It tells you the journey that you will go on with your organization to get to that point. And actually it rings true at every stage. So I love this diagram. Right at the beginning, we've got the manual processes, and that's how I started my career. When I told you I was lazy, yeah, I really was. We used to have to copy our files to our web servers to get them deployed. Literally go on, RDP onto those boxes or VNC onto them back in the day, and copy files onto those machines. And when I had one web server, that was fine. When I had 5, because we just got a new load balancer, and this was way back in the day, I had to do that 5 times, it got really boring really quickly. And you know what, you'd have a process you need to go through to make sure you do it the same. But I'd say, oh, step 3 in that process, that's not added any value, I'll skip that one. But what I did just then, whilst I was being efficient and trying to do the right thing and get more work done, what I ended up doing was introducing technical debt. I've just changed the deployment target for one of those servers. It's an absolutely naughty thing to do. Silly Gareth, don't do that again, and I never did. As you mature, as I did, I went, oh, I'm not doing that against those 5 servers every time, and step 3, I'm not doing that either. I wrote a script, did it for me. Went to all the 5 servers, bang, 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 bang. And then I got really good at it. I wrote another script, and I said, you know what, probably should be taking these out of the load balance group as I go. So I'll talk to the load balancer, take it out, put the files on it, then I'll put it back in, and I'll go to the next one and take it out the load balancer and put it back on it. And that's how I did it. And that was a great solution, but it was my solution. I wrote it. I was the only one who could support it. It was completely bespoke. And that's not great. So once you get that, if you've got a team of people doing that, we end up with a library of scripts. A library of scripts that only those people can support. You can't recruit skills, for example, in that technology. So then you move up the maturity curve because you recognize that problem. You say, you know what, I need an automated solution here. I need something either off the shelf commercially, or I need an open source product to do it for me. But either way, whatever you pick, there's no right or wrong choice here. Whatever works for you, works for you. You've actually got something now that's more mature. You can recruit people off the street who can help you with that problem, help you manage that solution. Then we move up even more to go to that continuous delivery bit. Now, continuous delivery, for me, is kind of like this little tiny step on that journey. If you've got the tools in the automated world to be able to do all the actions that you need to do, the only thing holding you back from doing continuous delivery is quality gates. And those quality gates in the automated world tend to be manned by people. So you'll have someone saying, no, that deployment looks rubbish, it's not going out. That deployment's going, you can go out. No, that one's got debug in it, it can't go out. Someone will be doing that job. In the continuous delivery world, you have the machine doing it for you. It deciding whether it can go in or out or not. So actually, that's just a really small step, technically. What we're talking about is trust. Your business needs to trust that the machines will do it right every time. And that's really hard to get stood up. And then again, once you're in that continuous delivery world, getting to the optimized software factory is an even smaller step, because this is just feeding back on yourself now. Getting those improvements back into your continuous pipeline, and away you go. Now, hopefully, I've explained this slide reasonably well. I may have not done it as well as CA do it themselves, but hopefully this is giving you like a reasonable grasp of how you can go on that journey, and hopefully you'll agree with me that it tells a nice story. What's really interesting is if you give this to your teams and say, where are you on this scale? Where are you on this scale? Because it really weeds out the pessimists as well, because when I did it with my team, we're all manual. And you think, well, hold on a minute, we're not all manual, we have got some automation in place. But in reality, my opinion, where TalkTalk is, we're somewhere between scripted and automated. We haven't got some serious pieces of automation in place that we need to have. We'll have very soon, and I'm going to tell you what we're doing in those spaces in just a second. But a really good slide, so yeah, nuggets of gold. So we talked about technical debt right in at the beginning of that last slide. We talked about those manual deployments and me being lazy and me actually introducing technical debt along that journey. But when I think about technical debt, I always think about it in negative ways, all right? Even just debt in and of itself. Who wants to be in debt? Not me. But at the time, because I think I have introduced technical debt into TalkTalk. I mean, I've done it. In fact, I don't think I know. Probably shouldn't say this while I'm being recorded, but, yeah, but I know I've done it. And I think back and I reflect on those decisions that I've made. And the more I reflect on them, I think these were the right decisions at the time. I didn't consciously go to TalkTalk, here's some technical debt for you, deal with that, that'll keep me in a job for another 6 years. I thought, you know what, I've got pressure here, a deadline that I need to meet. There's a commercial aspect to it. We want to get to market first. Remember, I told you that TalkTalk isn't the biggest player in this space. That means our commercial pressures mean that we have to be first. We have to beat our bigger competitors to market, else we stand no chance in securing that initial market share. And there's a number of ways that we can be first to market. They can ask me to build something, which might mean I build something brand new from scratch, but not integrated with our existing product set. Or it could be that we acquire another business. All right? Just like the Hungry Caterpillar here, though, and just like CA and TalkTalk and many say, every time we acquire a new business, we get that little bit bigger. We lose a bit of agility. We've got more to manage. We have more moving parts. We might have more duplication at the technical level. Now, it may shock you, but no one comes to me in TalkTalk and says, Gareth, are you all right if we acquire Tiscali or another business? I don't get consulted on that decision, but I certainly have to deal with the fallout of it at the technical level. So technical debt rarely at the time is wrong, accruing it. What we need to do as a group of professionals is really define how we deal with it once it's happened, and how can we turn the ship and steer it back onto a course where that technical debt can be paid back. So let's take a worked example. This is TalkTalk's sales website. If you go to talktalk.co.uk, this is what you will see. It's a good website, so I need to be really clear, my team doesn't build this website, so I'm not using this as an example of technical debt, all right? No way, shape or form. However, what's going on with this website is that it's our main kind of sales portal for our customers. If you want to buy a telephone line, you go here. If you need the internet, you go here. You want a cell phone, you go here. Hey, I said cell phone. You go here. It's our main sales vehicle for our customers. I mean, look at these chaps. These guys have got their mobile phones, they're happy, they're on the internet, they're probably watching this presentation back and going, that's amazing. They're really enjoying themselves there. But they are completely oblivious to the dirty secret that this website hides, completely. But I see it, my team sees it, every software developer in TalkTalk sees it, and every single project that we ever stand up and hope to deliver in any given time scale has to deal with it. Can anyone guess what that is? Technical debt. So behind that website is a database. And I imagine you're not too shocked by it being a database. I imagine you are shocked there's just one up there. In fact, you're probably thinking, the bloody charlatan, he's got me here, sat here for 20 minutes listening to this in one blooming database. No, that one database that supports our website is just one part of a much larger piece that is TalkTalk's application estate. And this is the logical representation of that application estate. Now that's real, that's not made up, I haven't made this up. We modeled this as part of another piece of work to work out where our applications were. Now that looks big, and if you're thinking that's big, you're right, it is. It's not the biggest by any stretch of the imagination, we're certainly not the biggest. To give you some stats, that's what's running on that platform. 84 million lines of code, 84 million. And that's, again, fact, we've counted that from our source control system. To get that into context, the Large Hadron Collider, you know, that thing that throws particles at each other and watches them explode and tries to catch other things, that only has 40 million lines of code, and that's real hard science. I'm just trying to let you guys use a phone. Yeah, we might have a little bit more than we need, methinks. We have around about 600 applications across that estate, and 5,000 interdependencies between those applications running across 3,000 servers. So again, when we talk about scale, and we talk about the likes of Facebook, Google, and stuff like that, we're small fry. But when you look at what we're trying to do, the engineering problems that we need to solve, we've actually got quite a large estate. And acquisition has, of course, played its role. So every time we've acquired another company, what we've done is we've acquired all of that company and all of its technical estate. To give you an example, there's a company called Tiscali up there. Now, Tiscali, when we acquired them because we wanted their customer base. We wanted some more market share, a perfectly sound commercial decision. But what Tiscali brought with them was their own DNS platform. TalkTalk's got one of those. They brought their own CRM system. Well, TalkTalk's got one of those. They brought their own billing system, and TalkTalk's got one of those. So we faced a real technical challenge about, well, how do we migrate those customers from one platform to another? During that migration process, a customer may have existed in both platforms, so now we haven't got a single version of the truth. These are all the things that can come along and get your beautifully tuned automated pipeline and really throw a spanner into the works. And it will just happen. And again, maybe you guys are more senior than me, but again, no one consults me when this happens. It just happens. Last time I'll show you this picture. We talked about TalkTalk isn't as big as Google, and you might be quite rightly sat out thinking, well, so what? So what? You're not the biggest. You're not Google. You're not Facebook. We can solve problems at scale now. We can do deployments. Well, this is so what? Let's have a look at just a little bit of this diagram. Imagine that is the ordering journey. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, oh, brilliant. It's even clearer up there. Imagine you've placed an order through our website, and you've gone to the website and you've placed it there. This is the flow that you will go through. You'll start off going through, and it will go through our systems. We'll put it in the billing system. Then we'll send you out a router. Then we'll give you a username and password so you can get onto the internet. And you'll go through all these systems. But how many need to change? Don't know. A lot. What's the scope of the testing? Remember, I'm dealing with 5,000 interdependencies. So every one of those applications that gets changed will have upstream and downstream dependencies that need to be tested as well, or should be at least. And how do we deploy those changes successfully in this world, where everything is a mesh, because this hasn't been architected as well as it should have done, because it's grown over time organically and via acquisition, as we've seen. How do I get those changes out to that environment safely? So what did we do? Well, I'd like to say that we fixed this overnight, but the reality is that we didn't. And the reality is that I got very, very lucky. Not just luck, but I have been at this for nearly 6 years now, just bleating on my technical debt crusade to anyone who will listen to me. And thankfully you're all listening to me now, which is great. But only because I've been successful, that's it, in a little way. But to be clear, timing was everything. The reason that we've managed to make such a step change in these last few months is because a number of things happened in TalkTalk, and they all happened at reasonably the right time. It was almost like the stars aligned. We had a change in leadership in my particular area in TalkTalk, and the person who took over my department, I explained this problem to them, as I've done many times to, as I said, to anyone who will listen to me, and they took it really seriously. They took it seriously to the point where they went, you know what, that's holding us back. We can't deliver as quickly, as safely as we need to get this through. Now, my direct boss is the Director of Business Systems, which is quite a senior role in TalkTalk. So when he speaks, people tend to listen. People with the ability to throw resources and the money needed to get these projects off the ground. And in parallel to that gentleman coming on board and spearheading this at the business level, we also had another program of work running called Delivery Brilliance. Now, Delivery Brilliance in TalkTalk was almost completely running in parallel, disconnected to anything that I was doing. But these guys had this radical notion that they wanted to make TalkTalk more agile. They wanted to make TalkTalk more agile, and to do that, we managed to convince them that they should probably have a proper tool chain to support it, an automated tool chain that lets those changes go through our systems quickly and safely. So Delivery Brilliance being our vehicle, pulling us along, we said we need to do, well, 3 things, but two high-level things. We need to automate, and we need to simplify. And by simplify, I mean dealing with that massive picture I've just shown you, and I promise I won't show it again, deal with that massive picture we've just shown you and shrink it down. Really strip out the number of servers that are in there, that some of them probably aren't doing anything at all. So, once we'd convinced people that that this was a good idea, and we've got this vehicle and a business champion to sponsor us, we need to go down to the next level of detail and start defining those metrics that would show success. And we wanted to start thinking big. Well, where do we need to be? And so what I'm showing to you now will hopefully be of use, because to be honest with you, and I really struggle with this. This is not my strong suit. As I say, the technical implementation of this stuff, I can do that really well, really good at that. But actually getting my head around around the business case needed to get people to believe that this solution would work and that it would pay back, because the challenge that was laid at my door is that this needed to pay back in under a year. In under 12 months from installation to delivering value for TalkTalk, it had to pay back. These were the metrics that we're actually using. Now, I've simplified them here. We'll get into some data in just a little bit, but just to kind of cover this off. In the automation space, we've decided to use CA release automation. We actually do have an automated solution in this space already. I won't name it because we don't like it, and that's not particularly fair. If you want to know, well, I'll tell you later if you catch me. But we wanted to reduce the amount of time we spend doing deployments. Right now, in TalkTalk, we looked at the release process we have right now and discovered that it takes 2.4 days for a developer to get some code from their machine onto the production environment through all the test environments. So if I was to ask you to deploy one of our applications, you'd say, see me in half a week and I might have it done. Who wants to do that? I would never have done that. It seems really harsh and unfair. It's certainly not delivering the value it needs to do. Not only that, I tell you we've got an automated solution. I didn't tell you we've got a continuous solution. Because remember those quality gates we talked about before, and the difference between those bits on that scale, difference between automated and continuous is you've got those quality gates manned by people. Well, we have a quality gate that's manned by people, 6 people. And during that automated process, they will take those packages that the developers have worked with, open them up and go, does it say debug in there? Yes, it does. Right, try harder. Does it say dev servers in there? Yes, it does. Okay, try harder. Does that one look okay? All right, that one can go through. 6 people doing that. And they don't do it once, they do it twice. So it couldn't be more wasteful. So these are the kind of things we can then start articulating to those people that care and say, you know what, we can strip out this waste. Simplification was actually the easiest one to get off the ground. It wasn't because, actually it's probably the hardest technical challenge, I should probably validate that. It's the hardest technical challenge, but the easiest one to talk about because everyone gets it. It's not difficult. If I switch off a server, you save the power, you save the aircon, you save the licenses you've got installed on there. It's really, really easy. People get it very simply. I say, getting into a position where you can confidently switch it off, much, much harder. But yeah, simplification people get. So we also got test automation coming in. So testing in TalkTalk right now is a very manual process. Don't get me wrong, we've got automated unit tests, but that's relatively easy. We've been doing that for decades now. But automated integration testing is really quite hard. So we're looking at introducing that right now. And to get that project off the ground, we had to kind of explain what benefit we're going to get. But automated testing, explaining the benefit of that, actually we started getting in the world of not guesses, but certainly estimates of the value that we expect to deliver back. It's really hard to kind of quantify the exact number that I can give back to TalkTalk. But we've certainly had a go, and there's certainly some places where that number absolutely is quantifiable. So in TalkTalk, our test environments hold around about 20 terabytes of data each, and we have 6 of them. Now, if you're a tester and you need to run a test case, let's say against one of our customers, and you want a customer who's capable of taking, I don't know, our brand new fiber service, so they want to upgrade to it, are you going to sit there and search through 21 terabytes worth of test data to try and find that customer that you need? Or are you going to dust off your old DB scripts and go, you know what, I'll execute those against there and add my 6 rows to that database, therefore increasing the data set? I know what I would do in that situation, but I've already told you guys many times that I'm lazy, so I'll let you know which one I would do. But either way, I'm adding to the problem, I'm adding to the technical debt. Of course, we'd expect also a reduction in defects, and this is where I say that we're slightly guessing now because we're estimating what kind of rate we would see that reduction by. I don't think we'd see a reduction to 0. I think that's not real. But what we physically did was go through every defect that reaches production, and we categorized them. We categorized them and said, should this defect been caught in the regression testing phase? And if it did, well, that's a candidate for one that when we're doing our automated regression testing work, we shouldn't let go through anymore. Not only that, we have roughly 79 people doing, I say roughly, we have exactly 79 people doing the regression testing phase. And in total, what that means is 79 testers no longer testing our new features, stopping what they're doing, and running manual test cases for 1 week. 1 week of repeating those test cases. Now, we trust our people. We trust those testers to make sure from our regression test pack that they're selecting the correct test cases to cover the changes that have been made. But given that week's worth of time, it's really difficult to determine what kind of coverage TalkTalk is getting from that activity. So absolutely we want to see an increase in terms of the coverage and the quality that we're delivering when we make a change. So there was kind of some ideas of thinking big, but then we need to start acting small. And acting small for me is about having a plan. Now, I have simplified my plan for the purpose of this presentation. If I went forward with this and said, this is what we're going to do, they might have laughed at me a little bit. The other Gantt chart was much more detailed. However, it still boiled down to these 3 phases, actually, though. It still was install, migrate, and train. Yeah, a lot more little granular steps, but yeah, mostly boiled down to those 3 things. But if you look at this slide, look at where we're delivering the value. It's like week 10 or 11 that TalkTalk would start seeing that payback, which is still pretty good, still within like 3 months when we're starting to see value coming back. But I was sat in a meeting with one of the CA guys actually at the time when it was almost like a light bulb moment. It doesn't really happen very often in my career, but this was one of it, I do remember it, where he thought, well, if we did this differently, because I run a team, could we actually be delivering value to TalkTalk even sooner? And the answer to that question is yes. Surprise, surprise, else I probably wouldn't have shown you the slide. But we're still going to have an install phase. But what if I made a slight change to the resourcing in my team? What if I said, rather than us doing a migration process, what if I changed the nature of my team to say, actually, for the next 8 weeks, we're going to hold drop-in sessions. So Mr. Developer or Mrs. Developer, when you're going to open up our old tool set, when you're going to actually break out that system which you hate and spend 2.4 days making those changes, don't do that. Stop, come and see me, and sit down with me or a member of my team, and we will build that new workflow in release automation, and we'll build it with you, which means I can start realizing the value from release automation, not in 11 weeks' time, but in roughly 3 weeks' time. Because we can actually start doing the migration for the in-flight applications as we're going and building them in the system that we wish to migrate to in parallel. So quite an interesting approach, not particularly revolutionary, but if you just spend some time just thinking about it a little bit, you can certainly bring that value forwards. So kind of finally, which is all about where we're getting to as well, which is kind of being proud and being honest. So these are the actual metrics. I've talked to you in general terms about the themes that we wanted to do, but these are the actual metrics that we use to kind of launch these projects in TalkTalk. I said to you that I really struggled with this. This is why I'm sharing it with you today, in the hope that even if just one of you finds something on this board and goes, you know what, I can use that, and I kind of feel like I've done my job. So that 2.4 days for a developer that we talked about, that they spend doing a deployment, we will bring that down to 0.5 days. That still feels quite long, quite a long time, half a day to get that deployment out there. But I'm quite bullish about this one because during our POCs, during our proof of values, I've seen a developer who's never used CA's release automation tool have a deployment flow up and running and working in 2 hours with no training. So I can be absolutely bullish about that. I expected when I get back to TalkTalk and this is all up and running properly, they'll carry me out like a hero. Well, I can live in hope, but yeah, a really good one. But again, this has come from the analysis of seeing people doing it, and you need to be confident with these numbers. Those 5 people who check those deployment packages and look at it, we don't need to do them anymore at all. Not at all. The checks they are doing are black and white checks. They are literally opening up the package and going, is debug set to true? And if it is, tell the developer to try harder. Well, I can get the machine to do that for me, easily. In fact, given that kind of saving, I might even write a script for it. But either way, those people no need to do that activity. We've also taken on CA's test data management solution, which I'm sure that you've heard tons about as you've been walking around the floor here. I know I certainly have. We have 126 terabytes across our test environments in total of test data. We are going to reduce that to 1 terabyte. Again, this is the number that I've published to TalkTalk in the hope that actually we'll smash that target. Because I think if we've got 1 terabyte of even synthetic data, the rules necessary to generate that amount of data will still be quite complex, will be quite long. I think we've probably gone too far. I imagine that when we measure the amount of test data that we have to support our test cases, that will probably be in the gigabytes range rather than terabytes range. That's 120 terabytes worth of storage that I can give back to TalkTalk to use for other things. Now that's a sunk cost. TalkTalk's already bought those disks, those spinning disks. I mean, and you know what? The vendor won't let us send them back and say, I don't want those anymore, actually. Thanks very much. Can I have my money back, please? They don't tend to like that. But the next project that comes along can absolutely take advantage of that storage and use it for whatever they need. No need for them to pay for that. That flow that I showed you on the board when I expanded it, it wasn't real. I did just draw the line on there. But that flow that we've got through our systems on that big diagram, when we do our regression testing phase, we rely on the expertise of our testers to know what test cases to run. But the reality is we didn't know, as I explained to you, the exact coverage that would give us. Now we do. So we invested in ARD and we modeled our major provisioning flow. And when we modeled our major provisioning flow, I won't ask you to guess, I won't ask you to shout out, but initially it told us we needed 16 trillion test cases to cover that major provisioning flow. 16 trillion! I don't think there's enough time in the world to be able to execute that many test cases. But once we'd flicked that sanity switch inside of ARD that says, you know what, just do the edge cases and the edges and the nose to give us 100% coverage, it actually came down to 200 test cases. And that's a really powerful number, not only in terms of quality, but in terms of what I need to do as an engineer to stand up the hardware to be able to support that level of automation. To execute 200 test cases, I probably only need one server, and you probably need it for an hour. Don't need a big, massive farm to be able to run all those in parallel. Remember that bugs I told you where we were having to take a little bit of a guess about the reduction that we would see? Well, from our analysis, we think we're going to be able to reduce the number of defects that come out of the regression testing phase by around about 80%. And I imagine if we don't smash that target, I'd be shocked. We're also going to look to move to a daily regression phase. So that week in the delivery cycle I told you about, where those exactly 79 people were executing those tests, we're going to move that from being a phase in our delivery cycle to just running overnight. Now, I dream of being able to run that with every check-in, but I'm not there yet. We've got to take baby steps. We've got to try the solution first and make sure it's all up and running and working. So we're going to run that overnight to execute our regression test pack. Our current automated solution for deployment, sorry, let me restart that. We're expecting with CA release automation to get a 95% success rate when we deploy to our pre-production environments. That's first-time deployment. The first time that code has been packaged up and deployed in anger. We expect to get a 95%. And now you guys might be sat there and thinking, Watson, you clown. That's a 1 in 20 failure. That's not very good. Who wants that? If I was to tell you right now with our current automated solution, we have a 60% first-time success rate, actually, that 95% is now looking pretty good because at the moment, that's what our development teams have to deal with. And it's not because they're stupid. That number of people cannot be stupid. Just, some of them might be, but on average, they're going to be just like you and me, of reasonably intelligent people. So at some point, we need to face in the fact that we're using the wrong tool for the job, and that's what we've done. So we selected CA's release automation. So from all of that, we are going to strip 2 weeks of effort out of our delivery cycle, which is currently 12 weeks long. That's 2 weeks that TalkTalk can now spend building products to try and become quicker to market to beat our competitors. So that's a massive saving from the introduction of these tools. In fact, for TalkTalk, that represents an extra release every year. An extra release a year, which is a really powerful metric. So when you start expressing things in terms of time, and I don't know if you guys have fixed sprints or not, but that really kind of resonates with a lot of people when you can say, actually, you can have another half a release or another full release or 3 releases a year, depending on how you do. And that simplification project I talked about, the target for that is even grander. That simplification project is going to take that diagram I showed you and literally cut it in half. It's going to halve the amount of systems that we have to maintain and have to look after. And that will enable even further automation. And once we've done that, I imagine we can move from the automated stage and get much more closer to the continuous level. So, with all this transformation going on, and I'll give you 2 guesses to what this is about to transform into. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to get there. But hopefully things will start getting a lot better inside TalkTalk, not both for our customers, but also for the people who work there. And that's pretty much all I have to say, to be honest with you. So we've got about 10 minutes left. So if anyone's got any questions or really wants to grill me, or hopefully just ask me what my favourite colour is, feel free to take the mic and ask away. Please don't rush. Take your time. That's well, in which case, if there's no more questions, sure, last chance. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you coming here. I hope that was useful to you. Thank you. Oh, you're too kind. Thank you.